Hi, this is Module 15. I apologize, I have the flu today, so I'm here and I'm going to get this done. What are your thoughts to the gamification of education? Do you feel games can be used to teach students content, or are they simply a way to entertain? What examples can you think of to use games in your future classroom? I've actually written several reports on actually using gaming, especially simulation type gaming for the classroom. I do think that you have to be careful with this as a teacher so that it doesn't become just a form of entertainment and the students aren't really learning from it. But I think that we have this kind of technology and it's important to use what we have in order to better education. I think that types of ways that we can use simulation games especially would be, if you've got a student that's in history class and they only partially pay attention. It's not something they can really comprehend. But in a simulation game, you can create an atmosphere where they are caught up in a political campaign, or possibly that they witness what it's like firsthand to see World War II. So I think that possibly we don't have exactly those games don't exist. Maybe they do. Those were just my imagination, but I do think that they could be great enhancers to any curriculum. And I have some more ideas about that. I think that the other questions might cover them. What template did you use and what kind of interactive game did you develop? I don't know what template I used. It was, the game was Family Feud. Was the template user-friendly? At first it was a little confusing, but I caught on pretty quickly. There wasn't really any instructions, so I wasn't sure where I was to alter the questions, but I figured it out, and it went pretty well. What problems did you experience? The only problem that I really experienced was toward the end when I tried to save it. It kept trying to tell me that it needed to be saved as a media, as a PPTM file, media rich something or other. I can't remember the words for it, sorry. But our instructions said that to save it either as a PPT or a PPTX file. So I did both and uploaded both to the instructor for grading, but the other module where I shared it with the students, it would only let me upload one. I wasn't feeling well last night, so I checked it again just now before I did this recording, and it's not working perfectly, but if you continue to, it'll give you a little box that says I can't find the route, and you can click that closed and then re-hit the link to go back to the main menu. It does work. I was actually plenty pleased that it worked as well as it did, because I was questioning it the whole time whether this was going to work. So, what are some examples of ways you could use the PowerPoint games in your future classroom? PowerPoint games in the future classroom. Well, I think that, if you divide the students into teams and have them try to compete against each other and ask them questions, it's kind of fun and gives them something new, something novel to try. They're not so bored when it's a constantly the same kind of lecture and writing notes and whatever. If you give them something to look forward to, especially something where they can kind of try to better the other side of the class or something, I think they would be responsive to that. Back to the first question, I had a couple things that I wanted to share about that. I have, like I said, I had written a couple of reports on using games in classrooms. Not so much the games that we did here with the PowerPoint games, but with the simulation type games. I have read about and done reports on people using World of Warcraft, Minecraft, the Sims games series, those types of things. And I do think that there is a great chance for students to get caught up in just the game itself and not really learn much from it. But I also think that just the working with the game, if teachers do it correctly, they can teach students to be, a little more savvy when it comes to all this technology that we're learning about and how to modify and how to get in and use the code. And I think that could be very helpful in a technology class as well. But like I said, I think that it's very useful in different things like history and language classes. But also, we've got a lot of students that are English language learners who maybe don't know the context in which we would use certain words. And that's really kind of an important part of learning a language, is knowing when certain words are appropriate and when they don't really fit. Also, I think too, how many of us English speakers actually speak correctly and use correct English, especially in high school where you've got kids using a lot of slang and that kind of thing. If they were given a simulation game where we had the way that people actually speak as compared to what it looks like on a piece of paper when they're given, a question, how do you respond to this? If you've got a person approaching you and they're using this kind of slang language or kind of not very articulate language, how do they respond? And I think that that would be very helpful for English language learners as well. I think there's so many cases where simulation games would be useful, especially like in math classes. How many times have we heard, I don't know how I would ever use this information? And if you had a simulation game where you could say, well, here's the situation that we're looking at, and you are an architect and you're trying to figure out how to solve this issue. And then you could show the kids, in real life situations how they might use certain math formulas. I think that those types of things would help kids kind of make a bigger connection when it comes to after high school, after homework, and how do you really, what does this information really mean to you? And I think that the more you can do that, the more that they'll learn from it. And that's all I got. Thanks.